Welcome everyone to the Early Childhood Health Consultation March webinar, Making Food Fun, Evidence-Based Recommendations to Promote Healthy Eating Behaviors in Young Children. My name is Erin Augustin and I'm the Outreach Specialist with Early Childhood Health Consultation. We're pleased to have you join us today. We are joined today by two guest speakers. The first is Morgan Peden, Nutrition Education Program Specialist with FoodWise, which is a program of the UW-Madison Division of Extension. She is joined by her colleague, Cassandra Tolfree, a nutrition educator, also for FoodWise, who focuses on Kenosha and Racine counties. ECHC is dedicated to supporting Wisconsin early childhood care providers and promoting best health and safety practices. Our vision is a sustainable statewide model focused on the health and well-being of children across the state. The Wisconsin Department of Children and Families and the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Human Ecology are partnering to offer health consultation services and other educational resources for early care and education centers across Wisconsin. We're grateful for the support of the Preschool Development Grant and the Roots and Wings Foundation. Our mission is to support Wisconsin's early childhood education providers in addressing health-related concerns and offering guidance on best health and safety practices. We acknowledge the American Indian tribal nations across Wisconsin and commit to offering tailored support to meet the needs of each tribal community. Our program provides general guidance on best practices for health and well-being in early childhood settings. For specific child-related questions, please consult the child's primary care medical home. Today's agenda includes an introduction, central content, a Q&A, and closing. If you'd like to receive registry credit through the Wisconsin Registry, please enter your information in the post-webinar survey by Monday, March 10th at 5 p.m. The link to the survey will be included in the chat at the end of the event. There is no need to put your registry number in the chat. You will receive a link to the post-webinar in a post-webinar email shortly after the event, which will include slides and a recording of today's event. Your attendance will be reflected in your Wisconsin Registry portal within 2 weeks of the live event. This will serve as your verification of attendance. You will not receive a paper copy of a certificate. Please use the chat feature throughout the webinar to send messages to the host, panelists, or everyone. The Q&A feature is also available for your questions, which can be sent anonymously if you prefer. If you're joining us via cell phone, the chat and Q&A functions are at the bottom of the panel. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Dipesh Navsaria for today's featured presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks as always for joining. I hope, I hope you've had lunch. Otherwise, you might be hungry hearing today's presentation. And if you haven't, well, maybe you'll get some good tips. I'm so excited to have Cassandra and Morgan with us today to talk to us about healthy eating choices, and really excited to learn more about different approaches, options, and ways to think about all this. I'll let them take it from here. Thanks for being here, folks.
Great, thank you so much. Let me get our slides pulled up. All right, let's get started. All right, hi everyone. As Erin said, I'm Morgan Peden. I work as the Nutrition Education Program Specialist for FoodWise. FoodWise is a SNAP Ed and FNEP funded nutrition ed program with UW-Madison Division of Extension, and we work in county extension offices across the state to provide nutrition education, work with local and statewide coalitions, and then partner with communities to improve healthy food and physical activity access and availability. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I love the topic of feeding young kids, so I'm really excited to be here. On the screen, you can see a picture of me with my family enjoying a beautiful Wisconsin winter, and I'm excited to be here with Cassandra.
Hello there. Good afternoon. My name is Cassandra Tolfree, and I work as a nutrition educator for Foodwise in Kenosha and Racine counties. I teach across all ages and stages, including pre-K classrooms to older adult audiences. I'm also a health coach who loves to support individuals along their wellness journeys. I'm in this picture with my husband, enjoying the outdoors in Colorado, and I look forward to our time here together.
Our objectives for today are here on the screen. So I'm going to go through the recommendations and best practices for promoting healthy eating in young kids. And then Cassandra's going to give some hands-on ideas that she uses when she does nutrition education in the preschool classroom. So first, I want to set the stage that this is general guidance. The evidence that supports this is based on typically developing children. So there are children with complex medical conditions, special healthcare needs, sensory sensitivities, and high-level food refusal that might need some other and additional support. So if you have specific guidance from the child's healthcare provider team, please make sure you're following their guidance. Early childhood is a time of rapid growth and development with so many changes and so many new growing abilities. So our focus today is on those kiddos ages 24, 36 months to about age 5. So when they're eating table foods and they have more independent feeding skills. And while some of this information can definitely be used in those earlier days when there is complementary feeding and starting solids, our focus is that older toddler through preschool age. Establishing healthy eating behaviors early in life is an important goal because it can have long-lasting impacts. The eating behaviors and habits that are developed during childhood can last into adulthood, and they play a vital role in the growth and development, the overall health, and the prevention of diet-related chronic diseases. And importantly, there are strategies that parents and caregivers can use when feeding children that can help shape these patterns to what they eat as they age. So, no pressure. But we're going to go through those recommendations. We're going to talk about ways that we can encourage these healthy eating habits, try to create a good relationship with food, and how we can try to get kids to eat the foods that we know are going to help their bodies grow and develop while also making it fun and encouraging. So as you know, learning in these years is exponential, and that includes learning to eat, learning about foods, and learning about their bodies, how they respond to when they're feelings of hunger and then feelings when they're full. And in the world of child nutrition, there's a feeding model known as the division of responsibility. It outlines that the parents and the caregivers decide the what, the when, and the where foods are offered, while the child decides whether and then how much to eat. So as caregivers, we're providing regular meals and snacks. We're deciding which foods and drinks are available during those times. We're making eating time pleasant, and then we're being consistent in setting the food environment. And then importantly, we are trusting that the child is going to follow their hunger and satiety cues to eat what's right for their body. Sometimes a child will hardly eat anything at all, and then other times they're going to eat more than you could ever imagine. And this is all a range of normal. We are doing our job in making sure that they have the right foods to nourish their body, and then we're trusting them that they're going to eat what they need. And we set that positive food environment. So when we sit down, we want it to be free of distractions, if possible. We want screens to be turned off. Bodies are in chairs, and then people are eating together. And this is for a few reasons. First, safety. We're watching to make sure that eating is safe. But then we're also focusing on each other and we're building relationships. We're being in community. And then we're focusing on the food that we're eating. And this is going to really help those kids learn to self-regulate their intake and that understanding their feeling of being hungry and full. I don't know about you, but if you ever experience eating when you're distracted and then sometimes you're like, where did all my food go? It's that skill of actually recognizing while we're eating and how our body's responding to it that we're trying to work on in these early days. Another part of creating a positive food environment is avoiding pressuring children to eat. So a few ways that pressure might look. It might look like you have to stay at the table until you eat all your broccoli. Or if you finish your spaghetti, then you can have dessert. Or it might even be, it will make me really happy if you eat the soup. When we provide the structure and then support their autonomy in what from that meal that they are choosing to eat, the evidence does show that that is helping create these future healthy eating practices. So you might want to say you have to finish what's on your plate before you can leave the table. But I invite you to consider saying instead, is your stomach telling you that it's full? Or if your tummy's full, you can be all done. So really giving them that learning of recognizing what their body is telling them. Another benefit of sitting and eating together is that there's also peer support. So social modeling from peers is one of the most effective ways in promoting food acceptance, as well as your role modeling. So children in your care are learning what you eat and drink. When they see you consume, what they see you consuming is a really important part in helping shaping their eating habits. So that also means that they're more likely to try and accept new foods when they observe their parents or their caregivers eating, and importantly, enjoying them. So I'm curious, in your care, what you see. Do you see like kids that will eat maybe if they see their friends eating it, or do you ever see them like looking up to you and they're willing to try something after you eat it? I'm going to pull up my chat because I see there's some chats and I want to see what you all are saying too. But I know when my kids were in daycare, their teacher would tell me what they ate during lunch. I was like, really? They ate that? Huh? They don't eat that at home, but they're eating it with their friends, and so that is a fun way to get them to eat together. So let's briefly touch on the food groups and the nutrition recommendations. And we're going to look at USDA MyPlate, which is a visual that's used to share recommendations from the dietary guidelines for Americans. And it is in a plate format, but we know that not all meals are on a plate and not all food groups are separated on plates like this, that sometimes our foods are combined. So this is just a visual reminder of some of the key messages. So for fruits and vegetables, we want to make half of our plate fruits and vegetables. When we eat grains, we want half of our grains to be whole grains. With protein, we want to eat a variety of protein sources. If people choose to drink or consume dairy, we want to choose a low-fat or fat-free milk, yogurt, lactose-free dairy, or a fortified soy version for kids over the age of 2. Kids younger than that, we want them to have that full fat option. And then overall, we want to limit added sugar, sodium, and saturated fat. And we know, like most Americans, children over the age of 2 do not eat enough vegetables or a variety of vegetables. So for the rest of this presentation, you're going to see it highly focused on vegetables, and it's for that purpose, that those are really the foods that we know overall kids aren't eating and what we really want them to eat. So with these food groups, we want to try to offer foods from all 5 food groups each day. And one way that we can really do this is through snacks. Snacks are a great opportunity to add nutrient-dense foods and include fruits and vegetables. You can see the recommendations for the amounts in parentheses for kids ages 2 to 5. And it's also really important to remember that what makes a healthful, nutritious diet is the eating pattern. It's over the entire day and the entire week. It's not one singular meal that's gonna make or break healthy eating. All right, I do also want to mention beverages because research shows that what children drink between birth and age 5 can have big impacts on their health. Beverages make a significant contribution to the dietary intake in these years. And there's a lot on the market that's advertised as drinks for kids that are not actually recommended for them. So you can see on the screen that what is recommended for drinks is water and milk are the go-to beverages. And if you choose to serve 100% fruit juice, serve it in a small amount, and then you can also consider adding a little bit of water with it. It is recommended that kids under age 5 avoid drinking flavored milks, toddler formulas, non-fortified plant-based non-dairy milks, caffeinated beverages, and sugar and low-calorie sweetened beverages. So sugar-sweetened beverages like soda and fruit drinks, they add a lot of sugar, and then kids can really easily fill up on those, and then they don't eat their meal when milk time comes because their stomachs are still full and then they're missing out on all those nutrients that our food provides. So how do we talk about foods? With good intention, a lot of people try to get kids to eat food by telling them that they're good for them or to avoid other foods because they're bad for them. But we do want to be careful in not using the language of good or bad when we're referring to food. First, it isn't effective in creating or changing eating habits. And then it can also cause guilt and confusion around food. Like, why is this food good sometimes? Or why is this food bad, but then we have it sometimes? But then also, like I just mentioned, healthy eating is looking at the entire eating pattern and not one singular ingredient item or food item or one singular meal. So what do we say? Well, at this age, we can group foods by their colors, and we can use our senses to describe the food. What shapes do we see? What's the texture? What food group does it belong to? We can start talking about that. Oh, we have raspberries today. What food group does raspberries fit into? Is it a vegetable? No, it's a fruit. And then we can start to give an introduction to how foods help our bodies. So when they're younger, food gives us energy to play and helps us grow big and strong. And as they get older, we can start describing what those foods do for our body and then why we eat them. So I'm not saying like with our 5-year-olds, we're saying we eat whole grains to decrease our risk of heart disease because that's not effective for this age group. And I'm not sure that's effective for really any age group. But we could say we're eating oatmeal because it has fiber and it's going to help keep us full longer. Today for snack, we're having yogurt. Yogurt has calcium and it helps our bones and our teeth grow strong. Who tried the oranges? Oranges have vitamin C. Vitamin C helps our skin get better when we get a scrape. So the words fiber, calcium, vitamin C, they don't mean anything yet. And you could probably even leave out mentioning the specific nutrient, but it is starting to give that actual purpose on that food does do something for our body. There is a reason that we eat food, and not that it's good for us, but the other purposes. And as kids grow, some selective eating practices and patterns might show up. So you might think of this as picky eating or going through a food jag. I'm sure that you see a lot of this with the kids in your care. And this can be a range of normal. We typically see it show up between the ages of 2 to 5, and they start saying no to foods that they used to really like, or maybe they're not eating as much. And sometimes this can be associated with slowing down in their growth. They're growing so much during those early years, and then all of a sudden they kind of aren't growing as rapidly. So then their food intake decreases just a little bit. Sometimes they're just wanting to voice their needs and wants, and they finally have words to be able to put with it. Sometimes they want choices, and sometimes they're testing a boundary. Sometimes it's because the food is touching each other and you put it on the wrong color plate. And it can feel really personal when they start to say no to more foods. I don't know about you all, but sometimes it feels like the more effort that I put into creating a meal, the less likely my kids are going to be to eat it. And that can be really frustrating. Like frustrating for me, but I think also frustrating for the kids too. So picky eating behaviors are usually only temporary, but we do want to try to get through that phase quickly because we want to make sure that kids are getting a variety of foods. So they're getting a variety of nutrients as well. And then they are also consuming nutrient dense foods. So we're going to go through some tips to try to promote trying new foods. But again, I want you to trust that your child or the children of your care are going to eat enough and then are going to grow at their own pace. However, if you or the parents are concerned about how restrictive the child is in the foods that they will accept, I do recommend bringing it up to their healthcare and their medical provider because there are specialists that help in getting kids to eat a few more foods. All right, so these years are full of growth and exploration and fun and learning. And we can use those skills and their curiosity and their excitement to learn and try new things when we're learning about foods too. Trying new foods can be scary for some kids. It can be scary for some adults. They might not know the flavor, the texture, or what to expect when they bite into a food. So I want you to think about the last time that you had a cracker. You knew exactly what that cracker was going to taste like because it tasted exactly like the cracker that you had before and then the cracker that you had before. You know that cracker is always going to taste the same. But now think about the last time you had a blackberry. You could be eating from the same pint of blackberries and you have one that is ripe and juicy and bursting with sweetness to then picking another one that makes your mouth pucker because it's so tart. That unknowing of what to expect can really lead to kids and people being unsure about trying new foods. The most effective strategy to promote food acceptance is repeated exposure. So we need to keep trying. We're not giving up on these kids to be eating new foods. It can take between 5 to 15 exposures for a child to accept a food before they even pick it up and touch it to their mouth. And that's a lot. And as a caregiver, it can be really hard to keep offering the foods that the kid just doesn't seem to be interested in trying. When you're doing continued exposure, I recommend giving small taste. It doesn't need to be a full portion. One bite of a new food on their plate, that's an exposure. And then when they eventually want to try it and they like it, then they can get more. Try to offer one new food at a time. You don't want to overwhelm them with a plate of food that they've never tried before. You can try introducing the new food with the food that the kid already likes. So they know that they have something on their plate that they can eat that feels like a safe food for them. That might allow them to try the new food, but they could be like, meh, maybe not this time. And I still have something I know I like. We do want to try to avoid hiding vegetables in food. It can seem like a great way to get them to eat it, but it could also lead to kids not trusting to try new foods because they don't know what's going to be in it. But I preface this by saying I do think it is also okay to add vegetables to other foods, like blended in a pasta sauce, spinach in a smoothie, or pumpkin puree in a pancake batter. I'm highly supportive of adding nutrition into foods, but we do want the kids to know that they're eating these foods. And then when they like it, to be like, yay, look, you do like pumpkin. You could try serving meals family style and let the child be in charge of putting the food on their plate. When you do that, it is helpful that the food is in a way that they can see like what's in the bowl. So maybe a clear bowl or like in a low bowl so they can actually see it on the table as well. You can try serving mixed dishes deconstructed. So rather than having everything mixed together, you have it separate. And then the kids can build their meal out of the pieces of the dish that they want. We want to explore the food. So engaging all the senses may facilitate food acceptance and willingness to try new foods. And this doesn't have to be done only during mealtime. You can learn about new foods through books, coloring activities, and stories. Listen to your food and the different sounds that it makes. Is it crunchy? Is it squishy? And you can use your eyes to investigate. What do you see? How does it feel? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it fuzzy? How does it smell? How does that change when you cut into it? And explore the different flavors, textures, and temperatures from the same food groups. I think also try it in different ways, fresh, frozen, and canned. And this can also help save money. You buy fresh produce when it's in season, but then also know that frozen fruits and vegetables are picked and packed at their peak freshness. So they are also a really great option. We want to give choices, such as, would you like cucumber or a broccoli? You know, giving kids that power to choose can be so impactful. And use positive language. We want to avoid labeling kids as picky eaters. I like to say people are learning to like new foods, even you, going back to the importance of being a role model rather than saying, I don't like tomatoes. You could try saying, this isn't my favorite. I'm still learning to like tomatoes. And then it's okay to not like foods. We can take no thank you for an answer. Or we can allow them to spit food out if they don't like it. But let's teach them how to do it respectfully and not make a big deal. And then lastly, I think it's really important to share with your child's adults at home what they tried. And then that way everyone can support each other together. So sometimes we also just need to see food in a different way to make it engaging and encouraging. So some ideas to stop the mealtime battles and making trying new foods fun. We want to emphasize the colors of fruits and vegetables. Our goal is to eat the rainbow. Serve it on dishes that really make that color pop. Talk about eating the different colors. What color do we have on our plate today? Oh, who's going to try the yellow food today? Add a dip. Some kids love a dip and they will try a new food if they have something to dip it into. And as a bonus, some dips can also add nutrition to make it a more filling snack with an added protein or fat. So some ideas might include peanut butter or sunflower butter, a Greek yogurt, which you can make into a sweeter, savory dip, hummus or other smashed bean dips, such as like white beans with avocado. And if they only eat the dip using the veggie as the serving vessel, that's okay too. One of these days, we are hopeful that they will actually take a bite of the carrot rather than just licking the dip off. We can try cutting food in fun shapes. You can use a cookie cutter or serve it in a new way, such as on the end of a popsicle stick. There is something special about having a different utensil that makes food more appealing. Make a game out of trying new foods. By having fun and making that connection with kids, we're increasing their trust and their willingness. As a class, you can be a food explorers and go on a taste bud adventure. You can give it a fun name. What about like X-ray vision carrots or something fun that maybe the kids come up with? You can be silly. You can use your carrot sticks as walrus tusks when you're sitting down to eat. A favorite in my house is when my kids were little is, you eat beets and anything the beet touches, it changes color. So we used to have competitions on who could make their tongue the most purple. And the more beets you eat, the more purple your tongue is. So somehow those kids always won. Do you have a table full of dinosaurs eating broccoli trees? Maybe you are a tree farmer and I'm a tree farmer and I'm putting this plate of trees on the table. I hope there's no dinosaurs here that are gonna come by and eat them. And then you turn your back and then come back. Oh my gosh, where are my trees going? Let's have fun. Let's play. Who can have the loudest crunch? Okay, we all have a pepper on our plate. Let's listen. On the count of three, we're all gonna crunch and see who can make the loudest crunch. You could have a taste test. Try different colors from the same produce and then lead with curiosity. I wonder if the green and yellow bell pepper taste different from each other. I wonder if they taste the same. I wonder if one is crunchier than the other. And then you could vote with stickers. You could have a poster and put a yellow sticker if you tried the yellow squash. Put a green sticker if you tried the green squash. And then also celebrate the different cultures of the youth in your care. And you can do this by highlighting culturally important foods through books, by bringing in their adult to talk about it. Have the kids excited to talk about the foods that they eat at home or with their families, and then being able to share it with their friends. And I put a link here for the some recipes from USDA for multicultural childcare recipes. So you can flip through there to see if any of those would work within your care center too. So I think I saw this come up in the chat, but another idea on getting kids excited to try is by letting them help. So as you know, kids at this age love to be helpers, and that can also lead to them being more willing to try the foods if they're involved in the preparation. It might not always be feasible, but when possible, try some activities where they can be involved. First, before involving anything with food, make sure everybody washes their hands. But then some ideas to get them involved can be in ingredient preparation, washing fruits and vegetables, scooping ingredients, mixing, maybe setting the table and helping clean up. And when we talked about giving the foods fun names, you could also do this when they're helping prepare something, is help name it after them. Like, oh, today we're having Maya's mango salad because Maya helped wash the mangoes. Something like that, get the kids involved. And then when possible, I love the idea of using food incorporated within their learning because this is also such a great time that they get to practice counting, collaboration with their peers, talking about their colors and letters in the alphabet. And then another great way with getting them involved and being excited about eating something is through gardening. Even when we grow something in a container, when they get to be a part of it with the planting, taking care of it, watching it grow, and then harvesting, it can be such a fun way for them to try something new. I cannot talk about food and feeding kids without also acknowledging that the lack of access to food that some of our families might be experiencing. So food insecurity is a critical health issue and it impacts millions of children and families across this country. According to Feeding America, in Wisconsin, 1 in 6 children face hunger, which means that family members do not always have access to enough food for an active and healthy life. And from the outside, we don't always know who is affected. And there can be lasting health and development impacts as well as some immediate impacts. So it might show up as dysregulated behavior, emotional distress, poor health, a hard time paying attention, or increased fatigue. So when we're talking with our families about implementing these strategies that they can also try at home, some of these might be hard for trying new foods when it's a challenge when food resources are limited. And food insecurity can be a really sensitive subject. Your families may not want to tell you. So you can consider having materials that are easily available to connect them to your families to the food and nutrition resources in your community. So this might include having information on how to access local food pantries or other community food distribution locations, how to where the WIC program is located, and how to receive food share SNAP benefits. You can also help by serving well-rounded meals and snacks in your care, creating this welcoming food environment, and also just being aware that food insecurity could be existing within your kids and your families. So as I wrap up my time before Cassandra takes over, I want to share a few resources that might be available to you to help support making nutrition and physical activity environment changes within your location. USDA CACFP, or the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This is a federal nutrition program for child care settings administered by the Department of Public Instructions. Programs can get reimbursed for meals that they serve during their program hours, and they have access to training opportunities and resources. Wisconsin Farm to ECE. This is an initiative to encourage edible education, gardening, and cooking activities with young children. It's supported by a few different statewide groups, so you can find materials on the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction webpage for Farm to ECE, on the Healthy Early webpage, which is linked below, and connect with WICA's Farm to ECE network. There you can sign up for get on their newsletters and other opportunities to learn more. Visit the WISN Food System webpage through WICA to learn more. When you get the slides, this is linked on this slide. Go Knapsack, which stands for Nutrition and Physical Activity Self-Assessment for Childcare. And this is for childcare programs to assess, plan, implement, and evaluate their practices around nutrition and physical activity. In Wisconsin, using Go Knapsack helps programs meet Youngstar criteria related to nutrition and physical activity. So you can reach out to your Youngstar consultant or email Jason with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families to learn more. Healthy Early is a statewide cross-sector partnership, and on their website, you'll find so many resources related to improving nutrition and physical activity for childcare settings and young children, as well as different ways to get involved. A resource I specifically want to point out is the booklet, Healthy Early at Home, a guide for families on well-being, healthy eating, and physical activity. So this would be helpful for you, but also that you could share the link with your families. And then lastly, not a Wisconsin resource, but an online resource. Kids Eat in Color is a website and a social media account, and it provides a lot of information and tips on feeding children. And I really like this page because she provides information in a very food neutral way. and is also based in evidence. So she has a lot of resources available on how to talk about foods and then tips on introducing different foods. All right, I am going to pass it over to Cassandra to share what she does in the classroom.
All right, good afternoon. Yes, in the classroom with myself. So I work in preschool classrooms. I did 19 preschool classrooms this year. It's called Color Me Healthy. They're 30-minute sessions. We have fun and try new foods, and here's some ways that we do it. So making art. You see some visuals here on the page with art made with food. For our first tasting that we do with the pre-K students, we do in the upper left, you see the fruit kebabs, and we use one piece of fruit, different colors, and the kids love using their hands to take each little piece off and investigate it. And for fruits or vegetables, all you would need is 2 circular foods for the eyes and 1 straight or curved cut food for the mouth to make a face. I've seen successes when I present the food as a face or as a picture, and when I let the kids do it themselves. The next one, exploring your senses. So here's the part where we may have to shift our thoughts a little bit from playing with our food when it comes to introducing new foods, because kids get the full opportunity and experience when they can explore the food. And this includes touching it with their hands. We go through the 5 senses, starting with sight. We ask questions like, what shape is it? How many do you see? What color is it? Can you identify it? Do you recognize it? Is it round like an apple? Red like a fire truck? Smell. Does it smell like anything you've ever tasted before? What does it smell like? Does it smell sweet? Then they can touch it. What does it feel like? Is it bumpy? Is it smooth? Is it dry or wet? Is it soft? Is it hard? And then, to be silly, when it comes to hearing, I always put the food up to my ear first and say, can you hear it? Usually that gets a few giggles. But then I say, I know a way that we'll be able to hear it. We can taste it. We can take a little bunny bite and hear the food when we chew it. And then sometimes I'll go around listening to the kids and seeing who's crunching. The next thing we talk about, don't yuck my yum. So this one, we're reminding the kids that everyone likes different foods. And it's okay if you like a food and your friend doesn't. And it's okay if your friend likes the food and you don't. We each have our own special taste buds, I tell them, and it may be different from one another, and I always assure them that this is all right. Then I talk about if they say things like, ew, or that's gross, they might hurt their friends' feelings who do like the food. So we encourage polite words if they don't like it, such as, no, thank you, or maybe I'll try it next time and like it. Sometimes we must try a new food, like Morgan said, lots and lots of times before we decide we like it. We remind them that if they take a bite and can't finish it, they can spit it quietly into their napkin and set it aside. We always make sure that they know that they won't be forced to try the foods. Role model tasting it. So here we go. The classrooms that I tend to have the best success in are the classrooms that the teachers, that the kids already trust, they know them, try the foods with the kids. And make sure you look like you like the foods, even if it might not be your favorite. It worked well in one classroom when the teacher would say, let's do it together. And she would count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's take a yummy bunny bite together. And then games, activities, and puppets. We do a lot of activities with the kids before we just jump right into trying foods. We do stuff like reaching in a paper bag or a box that they can't see, pulling a food out, and talking about it, just like we do with the tasting. We use colored scarves of all the colors of the rainbows to move our body. And while we're doing this, we talk about fruits and vegetables of those colors. Simple songs to reinforce fruits and vegetables. For example, it is fun to try new foods, try new foods. And the kids jump right in. Same, you could use any vegetable or fruit. I like peaches, I like carrots, and make up your own song that the kids can follow along with and learn easily. We also read a book called Good Morning Little Fox, and it's about a father and son fox who try porridge for the first time. We use puppets who are excited about new foods and eating fruits and veggies. We even have Billy Broccoli and Ollie Orange. If you know you'll be trying a new food soon, try to introduce the child to the food first through a book or a fun activity so the food is familiar to them before it's in front of them to taste. You can pretty much find a book about anything, and many of them can be shown through videos nowadays on YouTube. Some of the books we've had are Bravo Avocado, The Boy Who Loved Broccoli, or even Pineapples Don't Grow on Trees, a book to show kids the origins of some fruits and how they grow. In one lesson of Color Me Healthy, we teach the kids the different ways fruits and vegetables grow under the ground, on a tree, on a bush, or a plant, or even on a vine. One more activity we do is imagination trips. We try to include an imaginary food to taste. For an example, we take a trip up to the mountains and we move our bodies, and then we create a soup on the campfire that the kids can add their own vegetables to. And we talk about that as well. I did want to note, I was trying to keep up with the chat. I love all of the ideas that you guys had, but I love Diane T put something in there. Try New Foods Tuesday. So the kids know it's coming. On Tuesdays, we try new foods. And I love that she gave a choice, one of three of the things that we have. And I also saw several of you guys talking about gardens. So that is fantastic if the kids can participate in the garden. I even noticed that you let the kids pick the seeds for what vegetables they're going to grow. Let them plant the seeds, and then they can even pick the foods that they're going to eat. So that is my fun in the classroom.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. So here are our sources and then contact information if you would like to get in touch with us.
Sandra Morgan, thank you so much. That was just a delight of really sharing so many great pieces of information, but then also practically how to implement them in so many ways. And I love the crowdsourcing that you were doing, and you can see the love floating over the screen here as people react and respond, and lots of gratitude coming in the chat as well. There were a couple of questions that I did see, so let me just go to those. There was a couple actually about Kids Eat in Color. They were wondering if there's a discount code available for the program, since obviously money is always tight in early childhood settings. And then there was an additional question about posters. Whoops, and I just completely went over my entire screen here. Um, Although I think I just saw something float by with a link in the chat a
Yeah,
moment ago.
I saw somebody put a link in the chat. I do not have a discount code. Unfortunately, I do not have a influencer social media presence, but I know that I think she does have some like sliding scale. You can always reach out to her too.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yes, there was something in the chat as well there. So yes, yeah, I think people are often hopeful to just get good information out there, and they're often willing to work with folks. So that's always good. Um, there's two questions. One about ideas for picky children, and then one that just came in about recommendations for a child who has food sensory struggles and only wants to eat the exact same food every day, like peanut butter and jelly. Those are kind of different aspects of a very similar question, I think. So, do either of you have thoughts on that, along those lines?
Yeah, I do have thoughts. I think that some of those tips that we went over are like the small portions and over of just having it available, I think is really important where it then just doesn't become so scary and new. And then also trying it in different ways. Some kids don't like fresh vegetables. They only like them cooked or vice versa. And then also there is at a point where it is helpful to get one-on-one help, reaching out with their healthcare provider because there are conditions that do very much lead to selective food eating.
Mhm. Sandra?
The only other thing I would note is sometimes I remind myself to the word picky eating, to reframe that thought in my mind. They're learning to try new things. So it's, not always picky eating. It's learning that, they're in the learning process. So kind of trying to change our thoughts on what picky eating is. They just might be learning.
Indeed, and from a medical perspective, to both parts of those responses, the one there's yeah you may in early childhood settings, people may be the first to really ask the question of a family, you know, your child seems really, really restricted in how they're eating or what they're eating. Is this something you've ever noticed at home? And also, is this something you've discussed at a checkup? So, if you see something, say something, right? Because that might to a family that might be like, oh, they've always been like that, and they've just never even thought to ask the question. So certainly in healthcare, we appreciate sometimes that nudge can cause a family to bring it to our attention. And then on the picky eating, there's some theories that this is actually a survival skill from centuries past that trying new foods, when you didn't know if that plant was poisonous or whatever, may actually be adaptive. So we might need to just think about, we grown-ups now with, carefully regulated food supplies and things. We we think, oh, come on, why are they being such a pain? They're being a picky eater. But it actually may have been something that kept him safe previously, so we shouldn't dismiss it so quickly.
Yeah, and I think one other important piece too is like thinking of, do we want them to eat these new foods for the nutrition that they're providing? And is that the only food that they can get that nutrition for? Or can they also get it through something else? So, like, I would say vegetables are maybe one of the more challenging of foods to get kids to eat. But
Mhm,
with
mhm,
fruit being sweeter,
mhm,
they are typically more welcome to trying those. So that could be one of, okay, well, we know we
mhm,
need vitamin C. What from the fruits can we get? Or we know we need fiber. What from the fruits can we get? So also of maybe we're introducing them to the foods that they are more accepting of, and it's a slow process to work our
mhm,
way over to some of the other ones.
mhm. In some ways, I suppose we could think about it as being like any other child development process, right? Someone is slow to warm up when you know, they're new to a class or something like that. We don't tend to talk about it as being, I don't know, socially picky. We just say, well, they're slow to warm up. Let's do what we can to kind of help them with that process, and we take that on. So perhaps we need to kind of reframe how we're thinking about it, just as you suggested. All right. I'm not seeing other questions right at this moment. Thank you so much. I know that there's been so much demand for your slides and information, and as So we've mentioned in the chat, and I'll just reiterate here that will be coming as part of the what we send out after the webinar. Um, Morgan, Cassandra, since we have another moment here, was there any last final thoughts or kind of the key message that you would like our participants today to leave today, having in their minds?
I second Morgan on the don't give up. Um, don't give up. Keep trying. And try to be patient um, with them. And again, think about the first time you tried stuff. It's been a long time, a lot of us, the first time that we've tried food. So, just kind of take a step back and have a little fun with them and don't give up.
Yeah, and echoing kind of also what Kelly is saying in the just put in the chat, don't take it personally. Yeah, and keep trying, make it fun. Everybody likes to have fun, and food should be no different. We want to also create having a good relationship with food as they grow up, so making it a fun, positive environment. And scroll through the chat. There are a lot of really great suggestions and ideas in there.
Indeed, lots of great crowdsourcing here. Thank you so much, Aaron. I'll turn it back over to you to lead us to the end here.
Thank you, everyone, for that wonderful webinar. I'm going to share a quick anecdote, which is that I used to work at Foodwise, and I took a lot of this advice. And my daughter, who's 11 now, there were days when I thought it wasn't working, and I just kind of kept along with it. And around 9, she started getting very adventurous, and like now she's into trying everything, and it's sort of like her identity. So she likes kind of to brag about all the different foods she'll eat. So I think thinking about it long term, because my younger one, who's 6, is still in that more selective eating phase, like looking at the long term and seeing like that relationship with food as a lifetime and giving them control over that. I think I'm seeing like the positive benefits of that show up. So it's not always sort of today or tomorrow that you see those benefits, but I do think over time that's really been helpful, at least for me. So as we wrap up, we'd like to highlight the various free services offered by Early Childhood Health Consultation. In addition to monthly webinars like this one, we have a podcast titled Teachers, Toddlers, and Tissues, with also monthly episodes. Our resource library on our website, echc.wisc.edu, includes print and video materials, and our health consultation services are currently available statewide. Our latest podcast episode is how to think and talk about screens and digital media. So if you joined us last month, webinar was on that topic. You can also find the screen time webinar on our YouTube channel. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can use this QR code, call, text, or email, or you can contact us via our website, echc.wisc.edu, or join us on social media. So a few logistical reminders. In a moment, you'll see the post-webinar survey link in the chat. This is an important part of receiving registry information. Please complete this by Monday, March 10th at 5 p.m. Once you do that and we verify your attendance today, we will submit on your behalf to the Wisconsin Registry. You won't see that credit show up immediately in your registry portal. It will take about 2 weeks. So check back in 2 weeks from today to see that registry portal. You won't receive a paper copy or certificate of attendance, but your account in the registry, your personal account, will serve as your verification for today. We'll also follow up with an email later this afternoon with the slides, the webinar recording, and another chance to check out that post-webinar survey link. If you don't see that email show up within 24 hours in your inbox, check your junk or spam folder for that, or you can reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get it. So again, following the event, your attendance will be entered with the registry. Now, please check the chat for that post-webinar survey link. If you're using a mobile device, see the bottom panel for chat to get that survey link. If you are joining us and watching a recording, you can receive registry credit for attending. To do that, if you're not attending live, you would complete the continuing education log with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. That'll be linked there and also will be in that post-webinar email. So if you have colleagues you want to share this with after the event who want to receive registry credit, that information will also be in the post-webinar email. All right. I think that's all for today. Thank you for joining us. And does anybody have any other closing thoughts, our panelists or Dr. Nafsaria?
I'll just say that, again, this was an excellent session. Thanks again to our presenters. And I hope this leaves all of our friends in early childhood education a lot to chew on. Ha ha ha. For today. Morgan, Cassandra, any last thoughts?
Thank you guys so much for having us.
No, thank you so much.
All righty. Take care and thank you everyone for attending.